Every one of these is a mineral problem, and that is the reason the cleaner already under your sink does not touch it. Hard water carries calcium and magnesium, and every time it dries on a surface, it leaves them behind. Soap does not remove minerals. Soap removes grease. So you can scrub something for 20 minutes, watch it look exactly the same, and decide the surface is ruined when the surface is fine and it is wearing a coat. 7 places this shows up in a house, what actually breaks it in each one, and the mistake that wastes the most time. All the links are pinned in the comments. Start with the toilet, because it is the one people scrub hardest and win least. That ring at the water line is not dirt. It is mineral, left behind every single time the water level drops and the surface dries, which is why it forms in a band, exactly where the water stops. Bleach whitens whatever is sitting on top of it and leaves the deposit exactly where it was. So the ring looks paler for a day and then comes back looking like it never left. You are not fighting a stain, you are fighting a layer. What takes a layer off is the one thing most people are afraid to put in a toilet. A pumice stick is harder than the mineral and softer than the porcelain. That difference is the entire trick. The stone cuts the deposit away, and the glaze underneath is never in danger because the pumice gives way first. One rule, and it is not optional. Wet the stone and wet the bowl every time. A dry pumice stick on a dry surface will scratch, and a scratch in glaze does not come back out. Wet, it turns to a soft paste against the porcelain and takes the ring instead of the finish. The stone wears down as you use it, and that is the stone working, not the stone failing. Porcelain only, though, and that part matters. Not on a plastic seat, not on colored or enamel finishes, and not on anything with a coating, because those give way before the stone does. This is the same bowl. Stainless steel is the surface that somehow looks worse right after you clean it. Every fingerprint comes straight back, and now there is a streak running where the cloth went. There is a reason, and once you know it, the problem mostly goes away. Stainless has a grain, like wood does. Microscopic lines run in one direction across the panel. When you wipe across those lines, you are pushing skin oil down into the grooves instead of lifting it out of them, and that is the streak you are looking at. So the first fix is free. Wipe with the grain, not against it. Find the direction of the lines on the door and follow them. The second fix is what you wipe with. Most all-purpose sprays are water-based, and water will not lift oil. It sits on top of it and drags it around the panel, which is the smear. Something oil-based does the opposite. It lifts the old oil off and leaves a very thin, even film behind. That fills the grooves, and that is why the surface goes uniform instead of blotchy. Watch the stovetop first, and then the fridge door. Same cloth, same product, and the entire difference is the direction of the stroke. Two practical notes. These wipes dry out quickly once the lid is off, and a dry wipe is just a cloth, so close it between panels. And this is one of the few jobs where less product works better. A heavy coat leaves a film of its own, and then you are cleaning the cleaner off. A stainless pan with a brown film welded to the bottom is not ruined, and it does not need replacing. That brown is carbonized food and oil that has bonded to the metal under heat. It is worth being precise about why soap fails here, because everybody tries soap first. Dish soap emulsifies grease. This stopped being grease the moment it carbonized. So you can scrub for 10 minutes, the water goes cloudy, and the pan looks identical, because nothing you are doing is acting on what is actually there. What does work is a mild abrasive that stays where you put it. The abrasive gives you bite against the bond, and staying put is what keeps that bite on the stain instead of letting it wash to the edges, which is the one thing a sink full of soapy water can never do. There are two ways in, and they suit different messes. The first is a paste, and the reason a paste beats a spray is exactly that. A little on a damp sponge, worked onto the stain, then left alone for a minute before you touch it again. Wipe it off the second it lands, and you have just polished the stain instead of lifting it. The caution on this one is real. And it is expensive to get wrong. Bare stainless takes this treatment. A non-stick coating does not. If the pan has a coating, an abrasive will take the coating off along with the stain. And at that point, the pan really is finished. For anything really welded on, a fine steel wool pad cuts rather than dissolves, and on bare stainless, that is safe. Wet the pan first. Steel wool on dry metal scratches. On a wet surface, it floats on a film of water and takes the deposit instead of the pan. The caution is the same, and it is expensive to get wrong. Bare stainless takes all of this. A non-stick coating does not, and an abrasive will lift the coating off along with the stain. Look at what you're holding before you start. If a sink smells and the sink itself is visibly clean, the smell is not in the room. It is inside the pipe, a few inches down where you cannot see. What builds up in there is not really hair, even though hair is what everybody blames. Hair is the scaffolding. What collects on it is soap scum, which is the exact same calcium soap that makes the ring in the bathtub, plus the oils that come off skin. That mixture builds into a layer on the wall of the pipe. It holds water against itself, and that is what is producing the smell. Which tells you why thin liquid drain cleaners so often do nothing. A liquid runs straight down the middle of the pipe, touches almost none of the wall, and is gone in seconds. A thick gel or a foam is the entire point here. It expands and holds against the pipe wall, so the part that is actually dirty is the part that gets treated. Watch the drain before anything goes in, and then watch what comes back up. Two cautions. Never mix drain products. If one did not work, flush the pipe through with water before you try another, because some of those combinations produce gas in an enclosed space. And understand what this is for. It is maintenance. If the water is standing completely still and not draining at all, that is a physical clog, and it needs pulling out rather than dissolving. This is the one nobody believes until they look inside. If clean laundry comes out smelling faintly sour, or the smell shows up again once a shirt is warm, the machine is the problem, not the detergent. Front loaders get this worse, and it is a consequence of the design rather than a fault. The door has to seal to hold water in. So at the end of a cycle, the drum stays warm and humid with the door shut. Detergent residue and body oil collect behind the rubber gasket and around the parts of the drum you never see, and what you have is a warm, damp surface with something to feed on. A machine cleaner tablet is doing two separate jobs. It runs a hot cycle long enough to break that residue down chemically, and it circulates through the parts of the machine a cloth is never going to reach. Run it completely empty. No clothes, no detergent, and the hottest cycle the machine offers. Then do the part almost everyone skips, because it is where most of the smell actually lives. Pull the rubber gasket back at the door and wipe inside the fold. That fold holds standing water after every single load. And then leave the door open between loads from now on. That habit costs nothing, and over a year it does more than the tablet does. The white crust on a faucet or a shower head is the same mineral as the ring in the tub. The only difference is that here it dried in place, exactly where the water sat. It is worth understanding why it comes back on fixtures faster than anywhere else. On a fixture, the water evaporates and leaves its minerals behind every single time, several times a day. So you are not fighting dirt that arrives from outside. You are fighting the same water arriving over and over, and it will keep arriving. That changes what the fix looks like, and it turns it into two jobs instead of one. Taking it off is acid, the same as the tub. Keeping it off is a barrier. A wax or a sealant applied to a clean, dry fixture means the next drop beads and runs off instead of sitting there and drying into a ring. The order matters, and it is the thing people get backwards. Clean it completely first. Dry it completely. Then seal it. Sealing over crust that is still there just locks the crust in under a clear coat, and now you have to remove both. One warning: keep acid off anything unlacquered or plated. On chrome and on stainless, it is fine. On brass and on some specialist finishes, it will strip them, and that does not come back. Last one, and it is the quickest of the 7. Gold and silver go dull for two completely different reasons, and that is why one cloth does not serve both. Silver tarnishes. That is a genuine chemical reaction with sulfur in the air, and it forms a real layer sitting on the metal, which is why a polishing cloth works so well on silver. There is something physically there to take off. Gold does not tarnish at all. Gold is dull because of a film of skin oil, hand lotion, and soap residue lying on the surface. Nothing has attacked the metal. So on gold, you are wiping a film away, and a plain soft cloth does most of that work on its own. Then there is the case neither cloth solves. On anything with a setting, the dirt is underneath the stone, in the gap between the stone and the metal holding it, and no cloth reaches into that. That is what an ultrasonic cleaner is for. It vibrates the water fast enough to work into gaps you cannot get any tool into. One warning that genuinely matters because it is not reversible. Do not put soft or porous stones in an ultrasonic. Pearls, opals, emeralds, turquoise, and anything glued in rather than set in prongs. The vibration damages them. Hard stones and plain metal are completely fine. That is all 7. If one of them is the thing that has actually been bothering you, the link for it is pinned in the top comment, and every one of them is in the description underneath. Everything here is on Mr.AddtoCart.com. Subscribe and you will see the next one.